John, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, no problem. I'm John Weiland, as you probably already know. I've lived in Hervey Bay for about 30 years when my parents moved up from New South Wales when I was about 12. Um, since then, I've spent about 20 years working in the community and social services sector. In my last couple of years, I've been managing the budgets for NDIS participants. So I've got about $20 million across 50 budgets. I like to often joke that I don't have the luxury of deficit like politicians do, so I have to be good at it. Yeah, and before that, I sort of sat in the in a youth counselling space where we worked alongside restorative justice with the youth. So I've offered a chat to our state members about youth crime and some ideas about how to combat that as well. But other than that, I'm involved with a few different sports clubs here. I love Hervey Bay. I love the region as well. There's just so much to do and see here. I don't know what else to tell you. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so if you want to, once if you get elected into council, how are you going to stick your teeth in there, mate? And, really, what are you going to do? What are we going to see from you? What are you passionate about?
Look, I think number one, I think if I get number one right, everything else I should perform well, and that's being engaged with the community. So in every community group I can find in Division 7 area, I've already connected with. Even just going out to dinner in different places around, like the Riverheads Community Hall, I go to dinner there just to meet people. Just a group of people in a street invited me around, so I'm seeing them, planning to see them fairly regularly. Yeah, sports clubs are just huge community groups. I'm trying to stay connected there. So I think if I'm connected in the community and I'm giving opportunities for people to talk to me and meet me, and to be well, now I'm getting feedback, and to be engaged with everybody in these communities, I'll know what the community is trying to get done and wants to get done. So with that, I've got a wish list. It takes more than just one candidate or councillor to get things done. I'm aware of what sort of collaboration is need to be done. But I'd like to see us sort of review the way we're developing with our new estates. There's sort of seems to be you just knock every tree and thing down and fit as many houses in as you can. And I'd like to see the community that live there get a little bit more for their money, as in that community. I'd like to use Parklands Estate, if you're familiar with it. I think that's a great starting point, the way they've done that one. What else? Yeah, so I think a lot of work. I think I'd like to get my teeth stuck into our water strategy so that, I can ensure that once I can get more information about it, we've got a really strong strategy with our water security. And I think that might be a collaborative across all three levels of government if we get a really good answer for that or a really good solution for that. I also, because I come from the NDIS and community service background, I'd like to see our community really strive to be one of the most accessible communities as far as, I could talk for ages on that. I won't go into it. Just accessible for people of all abilities, I'll say. That could be a 2-hour conversation in itself, so we'll leave it at that. And my goal in council is just to give feedback, keep the community up to date with what's happening, and so that everybody knows where we're at. That's back to my first point of being engaged with everybody, so I can keep the community up to date with where council's at for things in the division.
John, if you're elected to council, you'll need 5 other voters to achieve anything in the chamber. What do you think your best way to approach being a team player will be, and how will you build trust with fellow councillors?
I've already started working and collaborating with other candidates and some of the councillors just to try and build a relationship to begin with. So I've got a platform for that. But I think just fostering good relationship. If I make sure I'm showing up where I need to show up, so they know that I'm engaged. Check in. I'm a counselling student, not the other kind of counselling, the therapy counselling. So communication skills is what I'm studying at the moment. Just invest time and effort into building those relationships and be accessible as well to the other councillors. Don't just throw my ideas out, or my division's wants and needs, but have time to work with them on theirs. And that way we might get a a really good strategy for the whole region.
Awesome. So they're all our questions. John, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you all the best coming into the next 2 weeks. You will have 2 weeks of pre-polling. It's a great experience, and I'm sure you're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be fun.
Jan Hegge with us. Thank you very much for joining us, Jan. Now, just want to know a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I've lived in this region for 41 years. I moved from Brisbane in 1983. I lived in Maryborough for the first 17 years of those 41, and I've lived in Hervey Bay for the last 24 of those 41 years. During that time, I've developed a lot of extensive networks and understanding of the region. I have been long-time service to the community. I was operations manager at WeCare 2 for a period of 8 years. I've also worked in state government through Department of State Development for 17 years, and I've had 2 of my own businesses. So I've got quite a wide range of skills and interests.
All right, I'm going to divert from the questions now because you're one of the few councillors who have ever been voted in by your other councillor colleagues because it was at the end of a term for Darren Everard. I had the opportunity to hear you speak, and I could see why they made the choice they made. What was that experience like presenting yourself before a group of 10 councillors as opposed to a population of 7,000 people?
Well, it was different, obviously, Stuart. The thing is, I did already know some of the councillors from previous networks and relationships that I built, so it wasn't too bad. There was 25 other people that actually nominated for that same position. So I felt very honoured, actually, and privileged to be chosen by the existing councillors. And I've worked very hard in those 6 months to cement that position in relationships with them and with the community.
Stuart, let's break that down for a lot of us. I know you know exactly what you're talking about, right? But the normal humans like myself, you're in political mode. Okay, so how does somebody... So Darren Everard leaves, right? He's a councillor. Can you explain how the system works? How does Jan get picked out of a hat? Is she...
So what happens is that a council term is broken up into 3 parts. I can see your eyes glazing over already. But basically... there's a beginning and there's a middle. There's a beginning and a middle and an end.
Yep.
So in the middle section of a council term, if a councillor resigns or departs the position, it goes to a proper election, a by-election.
Yep.
If it's within a certain time frame towards the end, I think it's 12 months, Jan, is that right? It's now 12 months. It used to be 18 months, but now it's 12 months. If a councillor resigns within 12 months, rather than go to a by-election, the council puts out expressions of interest for people to submit their resumes, and then they decide from those group of people, the elected body that are left. In this case, there are 11 councillors, 1 resigned, so there's only 10 left. And they vote by resolution on who's going to fill that position. So it actually saves them money. If you think of a by-election in a local government area is probably going to cost you around about $250,000 to $300,000. It's quite an expensive thing. So what they've done is they've said, we're going to make a decision as a council body to elect or appoint a councillor. In this case, it was Jan. I think there was something like 20 or 23 candidates that were shortlisted. They all then presented to the council. It was all recorded. You can jump on YouTube and listen to their speeches. I listened to Jan's speech, and that's where I was sort of commenting before. So she was actually appointed by way of vote. I think it ended up being unanimous that she was appointed by the other 10.
Okay, so... how come I didn't get an email about this? Like, how do people find out that this was happening? To be fair,
it was on the council website. It was on the news. It was
Facebook,
it was around. The reality about politics is, in order to be aware of it, you need to be connected to it. It clearly was the case that people were interested because there were a lot of candidates, weren't there, Jan?
Yeah, there was 30 to start with. It ended up being 26.
Thanks for breaking that down because I don't think a lot of us actually know how that works.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Well, Jan knows how it works because you lived it.
I certainly did, and I certainly am.
Yeah. So I'll ask the next question. What do you hope to achieve if elected to council, bearing in mind that you are already on council, but if you get win this election for Division 7, what is it that you hope to achieve?
Okay, there's a few things that I've already started advocating for, particularly for Division 7, like a public transport bus service, which they don't currently have. Youth training organisations that I'm supporting to access state government funds. And I think one of the main things in Division 7 area, but it's certainly very important for the whole of the Fraser Coast, is an upgrade to the Hubby Bay Airport. There's expansion and reconfiguration of the current building to have twice the size departure lounge and double the security screening facilities. And also I'm advocating already through the Director for Community Development that we change the system of parking to offer free parking for the first 30 minutes at the airport, which will ease a lot of the traffic congestion, the lineups for people waiting for their family and friends to arrive who park down Don Adams Drive currently, and Ubers will also have a zone where they can park like the taxis do. So there's a few things. Obviously, housing is a big issue in this region. I've started investigating some of the low-cost housing opportunities the council might have through surplus land being disposed of, maybe to some housing community organisations. So, you know, I have a practical and proactive approach. I don't wait for people to come to me. Yes, there's a few barking dog inquiries, etc., which Stuart knows only too well about from his time in council. But and I do look after those or put them through to the 1300 number. But I have a practical, proactive approach at looking at what the community needs, what residents need, and then and working out ways that I can approach it, not just going, oh, look into that. I think this week there's been some coverage in the newspaper about the top 5 election issues for candidates, and I think it's great when people identify that there's an issue with something, but what I've tried to do is actually show that I'm taking some action already. So, yeah, I will continue to do that if I'm elected, and I will work very closely with the administration. I know there's many people who don't understand how the bureaucracy works, so I'd like to improve the public image of councillors, because I think if you read Facebook, which I try not to at the moment, there's a lot of trolls and a lot of bagging of, you know, the council decided this and the council decided that. And as Stuart would know, a lot of times those decisions aren't something that councils have even been privy to. So I think that's just a few of the things that are in my mind that I'd really like to work on when I'm elected.
So what would your approach be to being a team player? Because in council, as you know, you need 5 votes in the chamber to achieve anything. And how will you build trust with your new fellow councillors?
Well, I believe I've already been doing that, but obviously the faces around the table are going to change after this election. So I have, like others, been developing relationships with some of the candidates for other divisions. But I really think that being a team player is important from the point of view of, I do that by identifying common ground with other people, understanding other people's issues, supporting other people in a team. It's like if you're in a football team, you support each other. It's the same for me. If we're looking at council as a team, sometimes it's not a team. Sometimes you basically are out on a limb doing your own thing. But as far as getting other votes or achieving results through other votes, I think it's about building relationships, but it's also for me sharing my vision, including other councillors in my vision for what I'd like to achieve, not only for Division 7, but for the whole of the Fraser Coast, improving our quality of lifestyle, etc. So, yeah, that's really what I look at to build trust, is supporting others and also including them and taking them along with my vision, so that hopefully when we get to the voting stage, people understand what it is I'm trying to achieve, and they've been included, and they will basically go along with the decision.
This is the issue that I have with divisional council representation. That, Jan, from my perspective, there's no doubt that our community is better off having you around the table of a council chamber. But same with John. He's a lovely guy, and he's passionate about this community. I would love to be in a situation where I could vote for 10 councillors, not one, because I reckon you'd get my vote, but so would John. And that's what we were talking about before, is that there's so many good people representing this community in this election. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I've said that for a long time, since when I was even in Maryborough Council years ago. You know, that you have so many people, as you said, that you want to vote for, but you can really only vote for one in your division. And in this election this time, the number of open divisions we've got where there's no incumbent, you know, some like Division 6, we've got 6 people, but others we've only got 2, and they're not necessarily, and not naming anybody, but they're not necessarily going to be the best person for the position. But there's those voters in that division only have 2 to choose from. So I've totally always thought we shouldn't have divisions. It'd just be the top 10 first past the post and the mayor. Yep.
Yeah, and to be full disclosure, you ran against me in Division 9 a while ago, and I want to be very clear, you are a very ethical opponent, and you are very respectful, and I think you've demonstrated that in this election as well. Obviously, you've been very respectful to the other candidates and respectful to the process. So I think that needs to be acknowledged.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm just hoping that this next 2 weeks of pre-polling will find everybody being respectful and kind to each other. I am concerned in Harvey Bay, particularly for the venue and the fact that there's going to be 20 people all, you know, on the footpath outside the Scout Hall. I think it's going to be extremely difficult. So I'd just like to, as I said, hoping that everyone will be kind and respectful to each other.
I love that word, kind. I think that goes a long way to making, because at the end of the day, you're in this position to help make our community better, and kindness certainly attributes to that. Macca, we actually invited all candidates. Some were not able to attend because of the short notice. Others had other commitments, which is completely understandable. Others, like Andrew Broad, made the decision not to attend, and he has provided us a reason in writing. So I'll read that out. It says, whilst I really like the concept of creating conversation around local democracy, my understanding is that both commentators conducting this podcast are signed nominees for specific candidates. Perhaps they may have considered being more impartial before beginning this podcast. I'll take my chances with the voters. Kind regards, Andrew Broad.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, we were asked, well, I was asked by Lachlan Cosgrove, could I submit an application? Of course, put my name down. That's fine. I know him. He's a trusted person in the community. I went, that's fine. I mean, we were open and honest about that. Robert Garland, same thing with yourself. It's democracy. That's how it works, right?
Absolutely. And what I found interesting is that no one in Division 6, where we both the nominees that we put forward are in Division 6, yet you and I aren't at loggerheads, and we haven't refused not to talk to each other during this podcast.
No.
So it is Division 6. Andrew Broad's Division 7, so it should have no bearing on him whatsoever. But also from my perspective, we should be able to work together to get along despite who we vote for or despite our political leanings. It seems that Andrew Broad doesn't hold that same view.
I don't know what that means from the message that he sent, but I can tell you honestly, like, we are giving everyone an equal spread. What do you think, Satira?
Yeah, I think a hallmark of local government elections is the ability for people to work together during the election process, because when they're in the chamber, they obviously need to come together as a small team. So you both are nominating people from different divisions to Andrew, so it's a shame you couldn't be on here to really share his vision and answer some of the other questions, simply because he felt that there was a
leaning or something. But
yeah,
that's somebody's opinion. I mean, you know, it is what it is. You know, we're not doing this for the people that we nominated, are we? Like, that's not the reason to do this. So if that was a reason, then I guess, maybe a point. But
I applaud you both for asking everyone to come on board. And yes, it is really short notice, and if we need more time next week, I'm sure that will be an opportunity for them to join us. But you have been really, really fair in asking everyone to join us. The questions have all been the same. It's not like you're unfairly promoting one candidate over the other.
And nor is it the case that just because you endorse somebody doesn't mean you have to vote.
You
for
don't
them.
have to vote
Yeah,
for it.
that's a
true.
good point. Yeah.
And it's the same as just because I've got two different candidates up on my fence. Two people asked me if they could put their sign up on my fence, and I said yes.
Actually, your property has had a lot of candidates over the years.
Yeah, and I have a simple philosophy. If you ask me, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Because I believe in democracy. There's been one example, I won't share that one, where I told them no, I wouldn't. And that was fundamentally because I was very opposed to a political stand that they'd made and the decision, and it related to immigration, and I had a very strong view on that, and I couldn't let my conscience get in the way. But every other time, any candidate that has come before, I've supported and said, yeah, sure, put your sign up there. And because I actually believe in democracy, and at the end of the day, if you give people choice, they're going to make the right choice. But if I'm not being dogmatic in it. I like, as I said, there's so many good candidates in Division 6, so many good candidates across the board. Whether the guy that I'm voting for, or the girl that I'm voting for wins or not, we're still going to have a council that's got to work together. And, this is a sign to me that sometimes there's too much polarisation in politics, and there shouldn't be any in local politics.
So if there was an opportunity for Andrew to come back and speak to the group, that would be
absolutely
more
anyone
than welcomed?
Yep, for sure.
Everyone's welcome. That's how it works.
Yeah, great.